Imagine turning 60 years old, expecting nothing more than a quiet evening with a simple dinner, maybe a glass of wine, and the heavy silence of being alone, only to open your door and find someone from your past standing there, someone who awakens a storm of emotions you thought you had buried forever. That was me. That was my birthday. And I never could have predicted how one evening, one visit, and one man would change the rest of my life. My name is Vivian. I never thought I'd have the courage to tell this story, but if I don't, I'll always feel as if I'm hiding a part of myself that needs to be spoken. For years, I had locked away certain memories, certain feelings, and the name of the person who carried them with him. Julian. He wasn't just anyone. He was Thomas's stepson, my step-grandson. And though life had pulled us in different directions, the connection between us never truly vanished. It lingered in silence, in the corners of my mind, like a melody I couldn't forget. Julian was 26 when he returned that day. I hadn't seen him in over 2 years, not since Thomas passed away. Back then, after the funeral, Julian visited me often. Sometimes he stayed for days at a time, helping me with errands, sitting with me in the evenings, and filling the quiet with his youth and warmth. But then, without explanation, he disappeared from my life. No calls. No letters. Nothing. His absence was like an unfinished sentence. And even though I tried to move forward, the truth is his memory never really left me. So, when the doorbell rang on the evening of my 60th birthday, I wasn't expecting anyone. Certainly not him. Yet there he was, standing in the doorway with a confident smile, dressed neatly, holding a small box of old documents as his excuse for showing up. But his eyes told me the truth. They weren't looking for papers. They were searching for me. And in that instant, I felt something I thought I'd forgotten. My pulse racing, my hands trembling slightly, my heart lifting with an impossible kind of hope. He brought out an old gramophone from the garage, one that had belonged to Thomas, and somehow he had already placed my favorite record on it. The familiar tune filled the living room, wrapping around me like an embrace. It wasn't about the record. It wasn't about the papers. It was about me. About us. I felt it in the way his eyes followed me, in the way his smile lingered just a little too long. Later that evening, when I thought the moment had passed, Julian returned. This time, he carried a cake. He set it on the table, and with a soft, steady voice, he said, "I didn't want you to spend your 60th birthday alone, Vivian." My heart clenched. For the first time in years, someone had remembered my birthday. Not just remembered, but cared. And not just cared, but wanted to be with me, to celebrate me. It wasn't just a cake. It was a reminder that I wasn't invisible. Tonight should be special, Julian added, his eyes locked on mine with an intensity that both thrilled and frightened me. You deserve that.
Part of me wanted to protest.
Part of me wanted to retreat to the safety of loneliness, where nothing could shake me. But there was something in his tone, a mixture of tenderness and certainty, that made it impossible to refuse. I found myself nodding, agreeing to something I couldn't fully understand. Upstairs, as I slipped into a black dress I hadn't worn in years, I caught my reflection in the mirror. For a moment, I hesitated. Lines traced the corners of my eyes, reminders of time. But when I brushed my hand along my waist, I realized that I hadn't lost everything. My body still carried its shape, its strength. My skin still held warmth. And as I whispered to myself, "I still have it," I felt a wave of confidence I hadn't felt in years. When I came back down, the gramophone was playing softly. Julian looked up, and the admiration in his eyes was unmistakable. He didn't need to say anything. His expression told me everything, that he saw me, not as an aging woman, but as someone alive, radiant, desirable. I asked, almost in disbelief, "How did you know this song?" "I listened to you," he said simply, his voice steady. "All those years you thought you were listening to me, I was listening to you. Every word, every detail." I remembered. That confession hit me harder than I expected. For years, I had felt unseen, unheard, like my thoughts and desires belonged to a past life. But here was this young man telling me he had carried them with him, treasured them. I felt warmth spread through me in a way I hadn't allowed myself to in so long. We sat down, and the conversation started gently. But it quickly became something deeper. Memories, confessions, silences filled with meaning. And then Julian's voice broke the rhythm. "Do you know why I didn't come back sooner?" he asked, his gaze locked on mine. I didn't answer. I couldn't. "Because I was afraid," he said. "Afraid of how much I felt for you. Afraid of the pull I couldn't ignore. Every time I saw you, my mind told me it was wrong, but my heart never let go." My breath caught in my chest. His words were both terrifying and liberating. I wanted to push them away, to remind him of boundaries, but my voice trembled as I whispered, "Julian, you shouldn't say this." "I know," he admitted, lowering his head briefly. Then his eyes rose to mine again, more determined than ever. "But I can't keep it anymore. I can't keep pretending I don't feel what I feel." The air between us grew heavy. My heart pounded. Every instinct told me to resist, to stand my ground, but another part of me, one that had been silent for too long, wanted to surrender. His hand brushed against mine, and in that touch, every wall I had built crumbled. "You've always been more than beautiful to me," he said softly. "You're strong.
Alive. Passionate.
You think you're 60, but in my eyes, you've never stopped being the most captivating woman I've known." Tears burned my eyes, not from sadness, but from something I hadn't felt in years. Being wanted, being seen. I whispered, my voice breaking, "You see me in a way I haven't felt in decades." Silence followed, but it wasn't empty. It was full of everything unspoken, everything forbidden, everything undeniable. When Julian leaned closer, I didn't stop him. His lips touched mine, and every suppressed feeling exploded to the surface. I should have resisted. I should have stepped back. But instead, I felt myself giving in, my body moving toward him without thought, without fear. I pulled away, breathless, whispering, "This is dangerous. If we go further, we can't go back." Julian's hand tightened gently over mine. "I don't want to go back. Not anymore." And in that moment, I realized the truth. I didn't want to go back either. That night, something shifted forever. It wasn't just a birthday. It wasn't just a reunion. It was a turning point, a night when years of silence broke into passion, when loneliness turned into connection, when age, rules, and fear dissolved into something undeniable. It was the night I stopped being invisible. The night I was seen. The night my step-grandson returned, not just with a cake, not just with music, but with the one gift I never expected, himself. And that changed everything.